Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Araxi Lindsey, the hair department head for the new Netflix film, The Harder They Fall, also an Emmy winner as well. Thank you so much, Araxi, for doing this. I'm a huge fan of the film and your work, and I guess I just wanted to start. I know you've done hair for Regina as her personal stylist. Is that how you got involved in this, or was that just a coincidence? And is there another? How else did you get involved with the project?
Well, in short, I got a magical call about a beautiful project. It's like, hey, do you want to, are you curious or interested in working on a Black Western? And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And actually, the first name I heard was James Lasseter. And James Lasseter is, he's basically one of the main engines behind Will Smith's success. He's a good friend of his. And I've known James since my early 20s. I started off as Jada Pinkett Smith's personal hairstylist. So that 10-year span of being with the Smiths and their family and their people felt like I too am a part of that family. So once I heard that James Lasseter was a part, and then Regina King, who I met during Southland, officially, that was one of the first shows I've worked on for TV after working with the Smiths. And Regina would call me. She had to have called me at least a dozen times asking if I was available to work with her. And every time she called, I'm like, nope, I'm on Blackish. Oh, actually, I'm doing Blackish. Yeah, Blackish. So to get this call about the Western, it came in the order of Black Western, James Samuel, James Lasseter, Regina King, and that was it. I was like, oh my God, I can't tell her no. The project's amazing. James Lasseter, James Samuel, first film, all of it. Yes.
So everything there is so cool. Like for those who don't know the project, right? It's like you said, like a Black Western, all Black cast, basically. Idris Elba, Regina King, Jonathan Majors. It's a really great movie and so much fun, I guess. And obviously the movie does a great job of highlighting that. Like in the beginning, it literally says like these people existed because like obviously Westerns in Hollywood have not really done a great job of elevating Black actors and certainly the Black experience. I guess for you, can you talk about where you wanted to start with this? Obviously, like a lot of these, it takes a lot of dramatic licenses, but they're also based on real people. So I guess where did you want to start to come up with like the looks and the hair for the project?
I try to put myself in place of the characters when I'm reading a script. And I try to visualize what I see that would be a pivotal point to help tell a story through hair. So I use my imagination along with chatting with the writers, directors, actors, and what they see. And then I make this huge gumbo of my interpretation of doing the homework of showcasing the hairstyles. But I do that for every project. And this one in particular, I wanted to make sure that I paid homage to cultures, where you have the Native American culture, you have the African culture, you have the European culture, Latin culture. I wanted to make sure that we exercise and showcase that, because I believe that that's a good amount of ethnicities that ran through the Western time period. Everybody wanted gold back then, and looking for the new frontier. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you have like the other? I mean, I guess the movie is obviously it's a Western. It's not. I don't want to call it a contemporary Western, but there obviously is so many contemporary. It does feel so contemporary. I guess it reminded me a little of like when I was younger, I grew up watching like a Tombstone, or something like that, where you have like young, you're like that generation stars like doing a Western or whatever. I guess for you then, do you balance like the genre with like the mod? Like how do you make like that work? Like the balancing of the kind of contemporary feel of the film with obviously the period.
I think what makes it contemporary is history consistently repeats itself. The hairstyles and textures that are showcased on the film are actual things that were around during that time. Like if you take the time to research African cultures in the late 1900s, or the jewels or jewelry that has been used from Native American cultures. Turquoise has been around for a really long time. Braiding, cornrows, pin curls, Marcel irons, all that stuff has been around since the 1900s. Or before the 1900s, early 1900s. Afro textured beards, all those things have been around. I think it's just the fact that we get to see it in such depth and color. And the fact that, in Tombstone, you wouldn't see other ethnicities. You might see a European person dressed as the Native American, right? So you weren't able to see things in color or that vibrant during that time, but it did in fact exist. So I think for me, I'm just really happy to be able to showcase the color that has been missing, like literally the color, not not speaking figuratively, like truly, missing that that aspect of Westerns from that time period.
Yeah, that it's I mean, it is really great. I just think it's so like I said, I'm such a fan of the project. For you, like, I know you guys shot this during, obviously, we're still in the pandemic. You shot it like last year, like during the height of the pandemic. I mean, as a hair department head and a stylist and stuff, like, you're so close, you're obviously so close to the actor. I mean, how difficult how difficult did that make your job here?
Well, we actually started like February of 2020. And I left Blackish to run over and start prepping. And everyone was there in the beginning of March, ready to film. The day before filming, we find out that it went public that Idris caught COVID. During that time, we weren't concerned about any of that stuff. We heard it was coming, but it was in another country. So we weren't infected with it at the time. It wasn't even a true thought for us. So we had to shut down production. I had to drive back home for 12 hours from Santa Fe to Los Angeles, not work for months, stay inside the home, quarantine just like everyone else, come back in August to a whole new world. So, using plastic capes instead of like the traditional capes that you would wash every night, or wearing goggles, wearing masks, wearing face shields, gloves for some people. I cannot work with my hands and be creative in plastic. It's like, oh, I can't. But some people did. Sanitizing everything to the extreme, like more than what you would normally do as a licensed cosmetologist, because we too are trained in disinfection, sanitation. Stand 6 feet away from people when when you're lovers, when you're on set, you end up having this family camaraderie with everyone. And now you're elbowing everyone like, hey, how you doing? Getting tested every day, because we've got it tested. PCR test and rapid test, waiting for the test. And is it okay? Are you safe? Not eating in the trailers. Like, it was just so many different rules to the game, on top of doing your job sufficiently and in a proper amount of time, that made it could have been overwhelming, but it really wasn't. I think the bigger part of working through COVID is having my team come back. My team was people who were married, had children from all over the state. And for them to come back and say yes and leave their families to be in this little cubicle of incubation for X amount of months to do their art and their craft, I think was great. But it was challenging, but you have to overlook that and remember why you said yes.
Right. Yeah, especially like we said, like, this is such a unique project, and like, the opportunity to do a Western on this scale, I feel like, is not something that really happens at all. So to see it like that, that's another, it's like does feel like a very classic, genre movie. It's just really cool. You talked about Regina obviously earlier. I love her in this. I think she's so good. It's a great performance. She plays a treacherous Trudy Smith is the character name, and she's like part of Idris's gang, but she has such, a lot of really great heartfelt moments, honestly, and like really kind of mines a lot of the depth of the character. Getting to work with her in this, and I honestly I love her hair, and I've never seen her like look the way she looks in this also. So I guess, can you talk a little about like setting up, like making her look the way she does? Because I was like, it just is such a great, she's obviously such a charismatic performer and like a personality and everything, and people love her, but I'm like, I've never seen her do stuff like this. So I guess, working with her on this, can you talk a little about that?
Yes, thank you for noticing that we've never seen Miss King in this role. That was one of the main things I wanted for her. I wanted to make sure that, or the bigger question was, how do you showcase a lovely woman that's been around since a child and give her a whole different persona on top of what she's naturally going to do as an actress? I wanted to, again, pay homage to different cultures and celebrate what we haven't seen, what we only know in private rooms or at home or walking down the street, and it's texture. I wanted to showcase texture. Regina's natural texture of hair, her hair is past her shoulders, very full and springy. And before someone like a Trudy Smith or someone from the early 1900s in her position of running a saloon and taking care of a city while her close friend has been locked up for years in prison, does she have time to go to a beauty parlor? Will she take time to roller set her hair at night? Does she give herself 100 brush strokes like they did back in the day? No, she wouldn't. So I wanted to show that over time, yes, she would probably brush her hair, but she's putting it away so she can get on her horse and, do what's needed. So I wanted to celebrate locks, which are also known as dreadlocks. And it's something that most people only attach to the Caribbean islands like Jamaica. But they've actually worn them all over in Africa, Ethiopia, in present day, I have them. I wanted to show that those hairstyles that are historically known to, how do I say this? To cast someone in a certain genre or a certain group, that it could be used for the professional. It could be used for the higher class. If you look at her garment and the outfit she's worn, she doesn't necessarily have to wear pin curls with that. She doesn't have to have a Gibson, which was much before the Gibson, but during that time, she can have a nice classy updo with that texture. She's also a person who, to me, she was a person who was more mindful of just being pragmatic when she's on her horse with the hat. Does she want the dent on her forehead from wearing a hat all day? No, she'll wear a scarf. If she's sweating, her scarf is there, she can use it for something else. Protective hairstyles around the hairline with the braiding. I just wanted something to make sure that she wanted to be neat, but at the same time, she's not a person who is so fussy and focused on her hair, but also someone that is shown to have a history. And I think locks is something that shows history. If her hair was down, which we never had a chance to see in this film, it would be down her back, but she's wrapping her hair up to get it situated to move on with her day, or braided or whatever. So
no, it's absolutely fascinating hearing you talk about this, because like, for those who haven't, you should watch the movie. If you're watching this and haven't watched it, you should watch it. You can watch it on Netflix right now. But just like the detail and like it's so interesting, like the way you put so much thought into the characters and like thinking about the movie and how like just the way they interact in the movie. It is so apparent that like that it really does lend it makes them feel like real. Obviously they were real people, but it makes them feel like real people in the movie. You know what I mean? Like it's incredible to hear you talk about this. Not to go too much into like, can you also talk about this? But I just for Idris's character, he plays Rufus Buck, and he's been in jail and stuff. Can you talk a little about like doing his hair and like his facial hair and all the different things? It's not like it's so it's not like he's got like really elaborate like facial hair, but it looks so. I just would love to hear you talk about it a little, like what you were thinking and like how you went about like thinking about like the character and like his circumstance and how his face would look and his hair and stuff.
Yes, I was able to, I spoke with so many different people because in my mind, I had a whole nother idea, but then I had two other ideas. And I was like, oh, Rufus Buck, he's been around. And I would ask James questions. How long has he been in prison? What was he doing before? Once he found out that his father was, the person he was, how did that affect him? Did it turn him into a rebel? How long has he been, it's all these questions, all these things. And I don't want to give too much, but still have the questions, right? Anywho, I settled with the fact of the Rufus Buck gang, that they have something in unison that brings them all together. Like if you were to see a bald head, you would know that you're a part of the Rufus gang, almost like a tattoo, if you will. Or if a gang member had a certain color, if you're wearing red, then you're with this particular gang. If you wear fuchsia, you're with this particular gang. So their haircuts is what I wanted for certain rank in the Rufus Buck gang. And I think that it's a thing that, and Idris too, he's like, well, should I wear it lower? Should I wear it, this length? And having that conversation with him and Brett Mayo, his barber, was really fun. And how much beard do we leave? And do we keep it natty, or is he always a person with respect, even though he's in prison? Do they respect him there, or do they just let him scrandle and grow and be real mangy? But for someone of his stature and with his history, I wanted to show that this is almost like his badge of homage. You wear the bald cut with the beard, that's a Rufus Buck look. You won't see that on anyone else. You won't see that on a Crimson Hood. You won't see that with the Nat Love gang. You won't see that in Maysville, So we wanted to make sure that that was his look and that was his image.
It's just so cool hearing you talk about this. I think that's awesome. You mentioned earlier you worked with Jada Pinkett Smith and started out in there. I'd love to hear. I think is your first credit on the Matrix sequel? Is that right? And can you talk a little about like what that was like getting into the industry and stuff? I think I would love to hear your story in your own words and everything. Yeah.
That's a cool question. I was in my early 20s, and at the time I was just braiding, trimming, and styling Jada's hair. And I didn't know, I knew of the Matrix, but I didn't know that she was doing the Matrix. And I wasn't hip to being a motion picture hairstylist. I literally was a hairstylist in North Hollywood doing hair for whoever came through. And Jada just happened to be one of those people. She called me over to her home one day and said, hey, Araxi, the hairstyle you wear, which were Bantu knots. She said, I want to, I need to do this hairstyle for a film that I may do. And I know that the people in the trailer won't be able to give it that special look that you do. Do you mind coming with me up north to showcase this? I was like, sure. I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm just thinking, okay, Bantu knots on Jada, not a big deal. And I get there and I meet the Wachowski siblings. And I see like a cartoon image, like an animation image of what they wanted Niobe to look like. And I was like, oh, okay, I see that, okay. And so I went in my bag and picked out a burgundy hair, and I don't like squares, I like triangles for the hairstyling. And I was ready, I already had it in my mind what I wanted to do. And I was asked, how much time do I need? And I was gonna say 30, but Jada bumped me and said, give her an hour. And that was like step one. Never tell them the exact time that you need, right? So I'm styling her hair. The other hairstylists start coming around, looking at my stuff, like, touching my things. I didn't like that at the time. She was like, don't worry about it. Focus on what you're doing. So I focused, do the hairstyle in like 30 minutes and take her out. And then the Wachowski siblings just went around her and looked at every angle, just up and down, all the, the actor stuff. And they said it was great. And she was really excited. She said, this is for the Matrix. we're shooting 2 and 3 together. This is freaking huge. They love it. This is where you'll be. And at the time, I wasn't in the union, to be honest. So I was technically a star request, but for other reasons that I probably shouldn't share, I wasn't able to finish the project. But we got majority of her looks out the way, and I was able to establish that look for her. So once she wrapped that, and we were off to Australia and everywhere else, and just went literally up from there.
Incredible.
So,
That's so cool. Yeah, and it's such an icon. I mean, it's such an iconic look for her character. You know, the character is so iconic still, and obviously, like, it's very cool to hear that. I mean, you're obviously so successful. You know, don't need me to tell you that, but you won an Emmy. You have this movie. You're doing so many different things. I guess when people, I'm sure, I would hope people, if they're like trying to break into the business or they want to talk, like, what kind of advice do you give them now? Obviously, I think it's probably a lot different than it was even, you know, when you were breaking in 20 years ago. So I mean, like, what for you, like, what do you tell people, I guess, who are like, oh, what should we do? How do we get into this?
Usually it's kind of simple. I would say stick to your truth. You know, there's a lot of times where people chase things, and they will start to switch their process or switch their truth because they see that something else is winning. But that's their path. You know, that's someone else's path. And in order to be happy in this business, you have to stick to your yes. Why did you say yes? What is your gut truth? What sticks with you? I think whenever you change your process or change your love just to be accepted, I think it stirs up a problem and conflict with you and some sort of resentment. So I believe if we just stick to our guns, if you believe that unicorns are orange, then stick with that. Don't let anyone else tell you that it's pink. Unicorns are orange. That's it. One day, everyone will get to see and they'll understand why you believe that unicorns are orange. So yeah, just I would say be still, be patient, and trust what you believe in. Don't let anyone steer you away from what you believe in.
I think that's great advice. Araxi Lindsey, hair department head for The Harder They Fall, which is available now on Netflix. Like I said, you should definitely go watch it. It's great. And your answers here were so much fun. It was great chatting with you. Thank you again.
Thank you.